What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm going to share my favorite movies of 2024. Now, before I get to my list, I do want to say that I did see a lot of movies in theater this year, and I did see a good number of movies on streaming as well, but of course I did not see everything. So if you get to the end of this video and you're wondering whether I saw something or not, please feel free to ask, and I'll let you know if I saw it or not. I may give you a reason if I saw it and I didn't put it in my top 10, why that is, but at the same time, maybe I did miss something that I should check out. So like I said, feel free to ask if you're wondering whether or not I saw a certain movie. Now, I will let you know I did see Nosferatu. I went and saw that on Christmas Day. I enjoyed it overall, but I didn't feel like they did anything new to the story. I was already familiar with the story, so I was hoping for a little something different in terms of the narrative. I think visually it's amazing. I think there's a lot of good performances in it. But like I said, it's just not enough for me personally to land into my top 10. Now, I do want to say this as well. This is just going to be my top 10. I'm not trying to speak for anybody else. So do feel free to share your personal favorites in the comments. And before I get into my top 10, I do want to give some honorable mentions. I have to give a shout out to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes for the visual effects. Of course, with these modern day apes movies, they've been doing a great job with the visual effects, and this movie I think just stepped it up even more to the point where really nothing looked CG at all to me. Like, everything looks so natural. They did such a great job with the character designs and pulling off those characters, mixing them in with the live action elements. This movie, though, it doesn't land in my top 10 because I wasn't a big fan of the story. Most of the characters I was not really into. In fact, the main character I liked was actually the villain. I think Kevin Durant did a great job playing Proximus Caesar, but other than that, I wasn't really too drawn to the characters. And of course, this movie very much sets up for sequels. It's strongly in the end, it's sequel based. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about the story, but like I said, I have to give big props to the visual effects and just the cinematography as well. There are some beautiful shots in it. It really looks amazing. Once when they say kingdom in the title, they do mean that. You do see a lot of apes on screen with these vast views of them, so that was highly impressive. I just wish that it did have a better story though. I also want to give honorable mention to a guilty pleasure movie. Now, I know a lot of people have nostalgia for the original Roadhouse, and of course, people are big fans of Patrick Swayze, understandably. So some people weren't really warmed up to the idea of a new Roadhouse movie, but I really enjoyed this movie. I know there are some elements to it that are very predictable and some elements that are even a little bit cheesy. A lot of people talked about how Conor McGregor's villain was way over the top, but I actually enjoyed his over the top performance, and I think Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job. He always buys into whatever role he takes on, so I enjoyed this movie despite its faults. I thought it had some really good fight choreography as well, so I understand some people not being a big fan of it, but it's a movie that I can't see myself revisiting in the future. I wasn't surprised that Furiosa did not perform as well as Fury Road did, but at the same time, I didn't expect it to underperform the way that it did. I enjoyed this movie. I know that some people were a little bit turned off by the fact that it is a prequel and that Furiosa had been recast, but I think the director, George Miller, still did a great job with it. And, it's called a Mad Max Saga as the subtitle with it. And I think that does fit. The storytelling really does feel like a larger, more involved story, which I did appreciate. I also think that Chris Hemsworth did a great job in his villain role. It's some of the best acting that I've seen from him. So there are a lot of strengths to this movie. If you've not given it a chance, do make sure you check it out on streaming. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I think if you liked Fury Road, I think there's enough here to like with Furiosa as well. I also made sure that I got out to the theater to see The Fire Inside, which focuses on the real life story of Clarissa Shields. And it begins with her basically learning to box, and it goes up to her time in the Olympics. And at the heart of the story is her relationship with her coach. Brian Tyree Henry, he did a great job as not only being a coach, but also a father figure. Ryan Destiny did a great job, especially with the physicality. And it's a reserved role in some ways because there are a lot of scenes where Clarissa Shields just doesn't really say much. I think they were trying to be true to her at that time. But again, Ryan Destiny, she did such a great job with the dialogue she was given. And also, like I said, the physicality of it. She did really good with the boxing choreography. So I enjoyed this movie. It was worth going and checking out. I think there are some aspects of the movie where people might say, you know, they could have dug a little bit deeper there, but it did enough for me. And in the end, it turned out to be a feel-good movie. And that's something I needed more than I realized. You know, once it got down to the last couple minutes of the movie, I was like, I really appreciate it. It just felt so good to see how things worked out for her. And of course, if you're familiar with Clarissa Shields, you know some of her story, but this movie is still worth checking out. Now, the latest movie I've seen at the time of this recording is a movie I was not aware of until right before I actually decided to check it out, and that is Hundreds of Beavers. And some people were actually confused online. It was funny. I was looking up information about it, and some people were like, you know, is this actually a real movie? And yes, it is a real movie. And Hundreds of Beavers, if you're not familiar with it, is basically like a Looney Tunes cartoon or an old silent movie kind of mixed together. It's very cartoonish, like I said, you know, like a cartoon brought to life. It looks ridiculous. It is ridiculous in some ways, but that's all by design. This is a very interesting and very entertaining movie. There's a lot of great humor in it, and I can tell that a lot of work went into it as well. There are a lot of visual effects. You just have to see it with your own eyes to really understand what it's all about. There are some little elements of it that kind of reminded me of Sin City, although this is a very different movie, but I'm just talking about the way that it was put together. But it does end up having its own style with all these different inspirations brought together. I was actually able to watch this on YouTube for free, and you can do the same as well. Go check it out on YouTube. Like I said, it is for free. You may not want to watch it all at one time. It does run, I think, a little bit longer than it might need to, but it is very entertaining. So even if you have to watch it in parts, do so. Take that time to check it out, and I think it'd be even better if you could check it out with friends. It's gonna be a good time, guaranteed. So again, Hundreds of Beavers. I definitely had to mention this movie for you all. And now, you all, we are going to get into my top 10. At number 10, we have A Quiet Place, Day One. This movie, I do have one issue with it I would just want to go ahead and get out of the way, and that is the fact that it doesn't add anything to the lore of this world, A Quiet Place. It shows us how things started in the city, what it was like there to be in the cities, but you know, we kind of already could picture that. It doesn't teach us anything new about the aliens necessarily. I mean, there's kind of something there, but not much. But what really made this movie special for me is Lupita Nyong'o. She does such a great job in that lead role, and I know it had to be a tough role to do. I mean, she's playing somebody that's basically dying all through the movie. Joseph Quinn, he's solid as well in his supporting role, but like I said, Lupita Nyong'o, she really made this movie for me. It does have some great visuals, some great effects and things like that, but her performance is what really helped this to land into my top 10. At number 9, we have Woman of the Hour, which is a Netflix movie. Now, if you're into real life crime dramas and you have not checked this out, this is definitely worth a watch. It's a crazy real life story about a serial killer that actually ended up on the dating game. It sounds crazy, and it was a crazy situation, but yeah, this movie, it engrossed me way more than I expected. So Anna Kendrick, she does star in it and she does direct it, but Daniel Zavato is who really stood out to me because he does such a great job as the serial killer. He's sort of captivating to watch, but disturbing to watch at the same time. I think that's the same way some people might describe, you know, that Dahmer series that was on Netflix. So yeah, if you were a fan of a series like that, you definitely need to check out Woman of the Hour. Daniel Zavato, I know him from It Follows, that horror movie. I think this is the only other movie that I've seen him in, but he did such a great job here that I'm very interested to see what he's going to do next now. So again, Woman of the Hour at number 9. Definitely check this out if you've not done so. And like I said, if you're into crime drama type movies. Originally, I was not going to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in the theater, but the reviews started coming out and they were mostly positive, so I decided I would give it a watch. I did not expect to like it as much as I ended up liking it. There is a lot of silly humor in the movie. Some of it works, some of it doesn't, but there's enough good humor in the movie that I did enjoy it overall. There's actually some decent action as well, and some heart to it as well. So like in a lot of ways, this movie just ended up working for me. Now, Jim Carrey, he let it be known that he did come back for financial reasons, but I'm not even mad at that when he performs this well. It's not like he phones in his performance at all, and he actually does a great job as two characters. And then Keanu Reeves as Shadow, perfect casting there as well. So an amazing voice cast, a lot of great special effects, a lot of great choreography as well. I mean, there's actually solid action in it. So other than some humor that didn't work for it, there was a lot to like about this movie, and I really was entertained by it. Now at number 7, I have The Substance, and I know that for a lot of people, this is like their number one, or maybe at least in their top three for the year. And I do really appreciate a lot about the movie. I do feel like it pushes the body horror so much that some people may overlook some of the messaging. It might get a little bit lost for them. There is a lot of great messaging in the movie, but yeah, the body horror, it can be a lot, especially when it goes just over the top in the last act. And I think that last act does drag a little bit. Something that does bother me about the reactions to the movie is that a lot of people are pointing out that Margaret Qualley has such a breakthrough role. And yeah, she does stand out in the movie, but when people give her props and they don't really say much about Demi Moore's performance, I think they're kind of overlooking one of the messages of the movie, and that's about, ageism, especially towards women in Hollywood. I think both of these actresses did a great job basically playing the same character, sort of, two sides of the same coin. So yeah, I think they both did a phenomenal job. And as a matter of fact, this image that you're seeing here, even with all the body horror, this actually ended up being the toughest scene for me personally in the movie. To see a woman that is clearly beautiful not really recognizing her own beauty, that just really struck a chord with me. It really ran deep there. And yeah, this movie has a lot to say, but like I said, there are some elements that may put some people off and kind of overshadow the messaging in some ways. But it's a really awesome movie, great movie for adults to check out, because of course it definitely earned its rating. At number 6, I have Long Legs. I didn't know a lot about this movie going into it, and that's what I really loved about the trailer for this movie, that it didn't give too much away. It stars Micah Monroe. This is actually another character, or excuse me, another actor from It Follows. So it was nice to see her in this role. I think she did a great job with it. Her character behaves unusually, but as the story goes along, you start to understand her more, why she behaves the way she does. Nicolas Cage is phenomenal in it. He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he definitely makes the most of it. Very chilling scenes with Nicolas Cage, and it's well directed as well. And I like the cinematography as well. It looks really good. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this movie. Blair Underwood was surprising to see in it. I didn't know he was going to be in it. He did a great job as well. So there's a lot to like about Long Legs. I'm definitely going to be revisiting this movie again and again in the future. Now with Smile, I enjoyed the first Smile so much. I was a little bit nervous about a sequel, but when the trailer came out, I thought it was a brilliant idea to go with a pop star as the main character. Naomi Scott did a great job as that character, and there was so much she had to put on her shoulders. Not just the emotional trauma that the character was dealing with, but also dealing with the choreography, all the physical things that she had to deal with. Yeah, this role seemed like it was a lot for her, but she handled it so well. It's directed pretty well. There are some issues I have with some of the jump scares being a little bit too predominant in the movie, but that opening sequence is amazing. I'm a sucker for a long take, and they have a long take that starts off the movie. It picks up pretty much where the first movie left off. That was phenomenal, and there's a lot of great strengths from there. Now, the way this movie ended, I'm kind of surprised that there actually is going to be a third movie. It's already been greenlit, so I'm very interested to see if it's going to follow up again where this movie left off, because that's going to be a lot to deal with. I'm very interested in where this series is going, but yeah, I really enjoyed Smile 2. Really awesome movie. Another one that I am sure to revisit. At number 4, I have Dune Part 2. This is another one that some people might have a little bit higher on their list. Wouldn't be mad at anybody if they say this is their number 1 for the year, because this is a visually stunning movie from the beginning. It's just amazing to look at. There's a lot of great characters as well. Some of the actors, they just fit their parts so well. I was a little bit thrown off by Christopher Walken being in the movie, just because he's been memed so much, and he even jokes about himself sometimes, and there's so many people that do their impersonations of him that it just felt a little bit awkward to see him in a serious role. But other than that, like I said, there's a lot of great characters here. I thought that Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya had great chemistry between each other. Visually amazing, a lot of great action. It just felt like a all around amazing cinematic experience. Now, it's not a complete story. That's why it doesn't land a little bit higher for me, but still, Dune Part 2 is pretty amazing. The tagline for the movie Heretic is "Question Everything," and that's very much what this movie about. And when it says question everything, that does of course include religion, which is a big focus of this movie. This movie, it puts some things out there that I think people tend to overlook, some things that have been in my mind since I was very young, some issues that seem very obvious to me when people get into their religious beliefs and their philosophies and things like that. I don't think people should operate out of fear And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do, especially when it comes to religion. And I really appreciate this movie for being willing to challenge some ideas and to break down some of the history behind some of these ideas as well. Hugh Grant, he does an amazing job with his role. Of course, the actresses, they did a great job as well. Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East. I think it's solid performances all the way around. Now, of course, in terms of the plot, there are some things that you could nitpick, but I think this movie is bigger than that. Like I said, it really is about the philosophies and the history, breaking down some certain beliefs that people have and why they think the way that they do. And like I said, it's just for me personally, it kind of validated some things that I've been thinking about for a very long time. So again, when it says question everything, I think that is a strong statement there. And that's why I very much appreciated Heretic. There are two movies that I enjoyed so much this year that I ended up seeing them twice in the theater, and Inside Out 2 is one of those movies. Now, I do want to be 100% honest with you all. I actually do like the first movie just a little bit more, maybe because the idea was fresher, the concept was fresher of having this embodiment of these different emotions. But still, what they did with Inside Out 2 very much impressed me, mainly because not only, how they incorporated the new emotions, but also how they built upon the character of Riley. In the first movie, I identified with her and the fact that she was dealing with a tough move and having to leave friends behind. That's something I experienced when I was younger, especially because my father was in the military. So from that angle, I identified with the character. But in part 2, she's dealing with anxiety. That's like the main emotion she's dealing with. And I definitely identify with that as well. As a matter of fact, that's part of the reason why I started my YouTube channel. If you've been following the channel for a long time, you know that I started up the channel as a way to help me kind of deal with my anxiety, to kind of keep myself active and engage with people, to be social. So yeah, that's really why my channel exists when it comes down to it. So yeah, very much identified with the character Riley, what she was going through. And I think that the filmmakers were very respectful with the way that they approached anxiety, the way that it was represented, the way that she kind of worked through it. Everything just felt so organic. It felt so natural, basically, especially within the third act. So I very much appreciated Inside Out 2. I still like the first movie, like I said, a little bit more, but I really appreciated this movie, really enjoyed it, and that's why I had to catch it again while it was on the big screen. And at number 1, this is another movie that I had to see twice in the theater this year because I enjoyed it so much, and that is Deadpool and Wolverine. Really entertaining movie. I mean, there's so much humor to it that even though some jokes don't work especially well, there's just so many jokes being thrown out there that there are still plenty of laughs with it. I love the fact that they worked in so many characters from past movies. Of course, they weren't able to get back all of the actors that played certain roles. I understand that, but it's great the characters that they were able to work in. Especially was good to see Wesley Snipes back as Blade. I'm not a fan of revisionist history. There are some people that will try to give this whole comic book movie renaissance, they try to give the credit to the first X-Men movie, which is so unfair. We know it was about Blade. Blade really kicked this off. Wesley Snipes really kicked this off. So I'm so glad that some people are actually giving him his credit the way that he deserves. And like I said, it was great to see him back as the character. I do think that Channing Tatum as Gambit was good to see in a way. Maybe they went a little bit too silly with it though, but it's a role that he wanted to play, so I'm glad that did happen for him. And it was good to see other characters back like Elektra and X-23 and so on. I think this movie had a good villain as well. Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova. I think she deserves her credit. She was a menacing villain. When you're dealing with heroes that can basically heal from almost anything, of course you have to up the stakes to make it seem like there actually is a threat involved. So she did a great job within that role. And then of course Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, again, pretty hilarious throughout the movie. Like I said, some jokes work, some not so much, but there's so much humor in it that there are plenty of laughs throughout it. And Hugh Jackman deserves so much credit for, once again, going through the physical transformation for the role. But then also, I think he does great dramatic work in this movie as well. I would say there's like 2 or 3 scenes where I'm like, he's just killing it as an actor, with delivering the dramatic lines. And it's unfortunate because this is a silly, over-the-top comic book movie that he won't get all the credit that he deserves for how good he did with the drama in this movie. But Deadpool and Wolverine was just so entertaining. It gave me so much of what I was hoping to see from this team up. It really justified this team up, and I really feel like it's giving the MCU that chance to kind of get back on track. So this movie did a lot for me personally. I love so many of the cameos and the little Easter eggs and things like that. Just a very entertaining movie overall, and that's why it lands at my number 1 for 2024. All right, you all. So those are my top 10 movies for the year. And of course, I want to hear from you all. What movies did you enjoy the most for 2024? And like I said earlier in the video, if you feel like there's something that I may have missed and you just want to ask me about it, I'm perfectly fine to let you know whether I've seen that movie or not. And if you suggest something that I missed, then I may, try to find that time to check it out. But I definitely look forward to what is coming ahead in 2025. Of course, there are some very big movies on the horizon. Fingers crossed that there will be a lot of awesome movies, and maybe I'll be doing this list again at the end of 2025. But thank you all so much for taking the time to check this out. I look forward to reading your comments, and I will talk to you all again real soon.